Hello everyone and welcome to Sondering Tarot. Today we're going to cover decks for the elements, so earth, air, fire, water, and spirit as our fifth element, just like we see in a pentagram. I'm going to cover the decks that I own, that I love, that actually fill the category for each element. So whatever deck I have that ranks the strongest. Of course, I'm filming this video at the end of 2020, so this is going to be based off the decks that I currently own. They are always subject to change if I end up with something new into my collection that functions better. And that reminds me, I do have one particular edit with the deck that I'm going to start with, which is the deck for spirit. The element of spirit, of course, is about our spiritual evolution, our spiritual growth, our connection to source. And my deck that used to do that for me is the Heaven and Earth Tarot right here, which by the time you see this video up on my YouTube channel, you should be able to see a flip through of this deck. As you can see, it's very muted tones, you know, kind of very medieval looking. It's a really pretty deck. As you can see, the edges are all banged up. This is like the second deck that I ever bought. It's the main one that I ended up learning on. I love this deck. I connect with this deck. It still holds a really strong place when it comes to all my decks that cover spirituality as a strong suit. But this deck has since then been replaced by a deck that reads better for me. This one is kind of a little darker, a little harsher. And it has been replaced recently by this deck right here. It's called the Unfolding Path Tarot. So for those of you who actually were able to get in on the Kickstarter, you may have actually picked up a copy of this. So this is an indie deck. I do not currently have a flip through of this deck up on my channel, probably by the time you're seeing this. Oh, and this is one thing about packaging that I don't like. Sometimes I use cards underneath the foam this comes in. So I'm just going to give you a quick peek of this. This is the backs. Love the backings. And I'll show you a couple of the cards. This deck has more of a mother energy to it. So it's more colorful, it's more, I guess you could say, simplistic without losing a lot of the RWS symbology. It's a really nice approach, and I love the way this feels. So this has actually taken my #1 spot for decks when it comes to the element of spirit. It's fantastic to work with. So, a little bit gentler. Gotta love it. I'm going to set that aside. And that brings me to the earth element. This is a new acquirement for me. And actually, I do have this fabulous Argonaut cluster crystal. I had this crystal before I had the deck. I knew this was going to go on my earth element deck. But I continuously thought that that was going to be the Green Witch Tarot, and was told no. It wasn't until my ancestors directed me to this deck that I realized this is the one I needed. It was put on my wish list for 2022, and I did not get it for my birthday, and I was informed I was not getting it for Christmas, so I acquired this one shortly after my birthday. I've had it for less than a month. I do believe a flip through is now up on my channel at the time you're saying this, but I have not bonded with this deck yet. However, I know for a fact that this is going to be my deck for the earth element. My ancestors told me specifically to buy this one just for that reason, and it has world building in it. That this is definitely its own little world, and I love it just for that reason. There's a lot of name changes for suits and the major arcana, as well as the court cards. So this one will take some getting used to for me. Hopefully I will bond with it quite soon. And unlike my deck for Spirit, which was an indie deck, this is a mass market. And in case you have never actually seen The Forest of Enchantment, which is quite popular, this is by Lunia Weatherstone. And that brings me to my air element deck, which is Chris Ann's The Light Seer's Tarot. This originally was an indie deck and they got picked up as mass market. I have the mass market version because the indie comes in a big box. There's actually not a lot of changes between the indie and the mass market. It's actually pretty one-to-one as far as card content, and guidebook content is fabulous. This definitely fills my air element for ideas and passion and drive and truth. So creativity, joy, yes, this is the deck that I've been drawn to. I ended up seeing this on Baba Jolie's channel and fell in love with it. I never really had the drive to bond or to want a mass market modern deck until I got this one. And I was chosen hard for this one. And it is beautiful. I love using it. It feels very youthful. And I can connect to the modern aspect of the deck, which is really nice for symbology and usage. In fact, I don't have a lot of decks that are actually what I quote-unquote call modern themed. This is the first one I was drawn to. And it hasn't been knocked from its perch as far as it being the top for my air element. Alright, and we're going to tackle the fire element. This is also a mass market deck. This is one of my newly acquired decks. I knew it was for my fire element. My ancestors let me know. And oh boy, does it scream fire element to me, because it is the Tarot of Dragons by Sean Mackenzie. This speaks of fire and power and, yes, motivation, very doing and doing big. It's, you know, that big home, go home, you know, blah, 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 blah. Let me put my tongue back in my mouth. It's the do it big or go home kind of energy. There's so much power in this, and I love the fact that there are no writers in this deck, so thank you, Sean Mackenzie. This is one of the decks that the author does want you to read it solely in the upright. That's how she designed it, but if you use the RWS system and you know it, you are able to read reversals, which occasionally I do, occasionally I don't, depending on what my ancestors want. But I do love all the bright colors. I love the different dragons. I love the different backgrounds on it. They're not all the same variety or type of dragon. There are people present, but they're not riders, which is fabulous. There is, like, this is the shaman, which is your magician card. There is a couple name changes, which is fine, but this is a deck that I really love the energy on it. It does fulfill that fire energy for me. And at any point in this video, you guys can feel free to argue with me on what element these decks should be in, or what element you guys associate with these decks. I mean, they do different jobs for me. Like, this may be my representation of the fire element, but the strength of this deck is actually dreams. So what you're passionate about, the dreams that you hold and keep, this is what usually comes out of this deck the strongest for me. And last but not least is one of my all-time favorites, not only because I'm a water sign with a chart that's like 54% water, so water is my element, but to announce how old I am, I grew up watching The Little Mermaid, so the Mermaid Tarot by Lisa Robertson is definitely a favorite of mine. I've got another deck by her, which is the Soul Cats Tarot. I also love it, but the Mermaid Tarot, the main job it does for me, its strong suit, at least in my hands, is manifestation. This will literally tell me where the energy is or where it isn't. And this deck screamed water to me the instant I saw it. And I don't even have a deck in my collection that I know of that even comes close to touching this deck when it comes to water. So spirituality, dreams, emotions, connections, all that fun stuff. This deck has it, and I don't think it's gonna go anywhere from that perch anytime soon. It's just one of those decks that will probably forever be on top. I don't foresee it going anywhere. So I would be surprised if I have another deck that I will connect to more than this one for this particular element. Who knows? I mean, the future's totally unwritten as of yet, so maybe I will find one eventually, but for now, this is definitely, hands down, one of my favorite decks, and the very top for my water element. And I do believe I have a walkthrough of this one as well up on my channel. If you want to see the whole guidebook and artwork for it, feel free to do that. So what do you guys think? 5 decks. One that's an indie. The rest are all mass market. Would you keep all of these or put them in a different category? Love them, hate them? Does any of these choices make sense? Granted, I know this deck in your hands may read best for, you know, child development, or this one could read better for a shadow deck, or, you know, this one over here could read better for life purpose. They're all going to react differently as far as what a deck does, what job it fills, what category it falls into. But these right here are my top 5. Spirit, earth, air, fire, and water. So agree or disagree. And if you want to, go ahead and tag me or send me links if you want of your top 5 decks for each element. What decks hold the top in each category? Spirit, earth, air, fire, and water. Anyway, my lovelies, thank you so much for watching. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll catch you guys later. Bye.